So, there's this number that's been floating around, a figure that just sounds massive, $10 million. You've probably heard it, but what was that money actually for? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain, demystify that number, and show you the real plan behind it.
$10 million. When you just see a number like that sitting there, it's pretty much impossible not to ask one very simple, very important question.
And that's exactly what we're going to get into. See, this isn't just about a big, flashy number. It's about really understanding the strategy and the sheer scale of what was being proposed. So let's peel back the layers and find out what this money was truly meant to build.
Okay, before we even start talking about the money, we have to get our heads around the task itself. This wasn't a proposal for a weekend volunteer group. We're talking about starting an entirely new paramilitary organization. You know, a civilian group that's structured like a military force completely from scratch. And that, well, that is a monumental undertaking.
I mean, just look at this list. This isn't a simple to-do list. This is the entire bedrock of an institution. You have to figure out the legal authority, navigate all the regulations, you need secure IT systems, a way to credential people, standardized training programs, and you have to manage risk and liability, plus coordinate with all the existing federal and state partners. Honestly, every single one of these bullet points is a massive project in itself. You basically have to build the entire car before you can even turn the key.
And this right here, this brings us to what is probably the single most important thing to understand. That $10 million figure has been widely, and I mean widely, misunderstood. It was never ever meant to fund a permanent, coast-to-coast organization right from day one.
So on the one hand, you have the common assumption that this was for some kind of huge nationwide rollout. The reality? It was so much different. That money was specifically earmarked for a limited, initial pilot program in just 3 to 5 states, basically places where they thought they'd get the most support. The whole idea was to create a small, functional test case, not some giant, sprawling bureaucracy.
So now that we know this is for a limited pilot, let's do what we came here to do. Let's follow the money. How does $10 million actually break down? Well, the planners put together a deliberately conservative estimate, and they divided it into very specific, very realistic cost areas. So at a glance, you can see the biggest slices of the pie, right? About 30% goes to a lean national HQ, and right behind that is the money for actual training and pilot operations. But you can also see that huge investment in all that foundational stuff we just talked about, the legal setup and those absolutely critical IT systems. And here's where we put some real dollar figures on those percentages. We see up to $3 million for a national HQ, which was really meant for coordination, not command and control. $2 million for the actual on-the-ground training and pilot ops. Then you've got $1 to $2 million each for both the legal groundwork and the IT infrastructure. This right here, this is the financial blueprint for building that organization from the ground up. But, you know, the budget only tells you half the story. The other half is the strategy. Why this specific amount and why for a pilot program? The answer is pretty simple. This entire $10 million was designed to fund a proof of concept.
This money was never a blank check. It was a calculated investment to answer one fundamental question: does this idea even work? The plan was to build the organization, get it running, gather real-world data, and then, based on objective results, make a decision. Do we scale it up or do we shut it down? It was really designed to be a fiscally responsible way to test a pretty bold idea.
And honestly, this quote from the source document just says it all perfectly. It was, and I quote, intentionally framed as a test of feasibility and value, not a commitment to a large or permanent structure. The $10 million wasn't for building an empire, it was for funding an experiment. So the next time you hear that figure, you'll know it represents something more than just money. It's the price tag for asking one single, really important question. Is this even possible?